welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another cooking video. In today's video, I am sharing 5 slow cooker recipes. I know it is that time of year where we are just always busy, right? Especially right after the holidays. So these recipes, they come together in no time in the morning and ready by dinner time. So I hope that you love them and let's get into it. All right, so to get us started with this week's slow cooker meals, we are going to be making slow cooker stuffed meatballs. This is so good. So it's starting with a pound of ground beef and a pound of ground Italian sausage. And to that, we are going to add in a 1/4 cup of panko breadcrumbs. If you do not have panko, it is totally okay to use regular breadcrumbs. And then I am going to actually grate in half of an onion, and I'm also going to grate in 3 cloves of garlic. The reason I like to grate them is because it actually incorporates so much better into the meatball, and you get all of that delicious onion and garlic flavor without all those big chunks. So after that, we are going to put in a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, 1 tablespoon of fresh minced parsley, and a teaspoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and then 1 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper and 2 eggs. And then we are going to use the best tool in the kitchen, our hands. And this is the point where I regret using this tiny bowl because it got all over, but it still got the job done, and we're just gonna mix that until everything is really well combined. Now what we're using for the filling is just some regular old plain mozzarella string cheese, and we're going to cut each stick into 4 pieces, and I am going to cut about 12 to 16 pieces of cheese, and we are just going to form the meatballs. My meatballs I did make pretty big. I couldn't even tell you, I would say maybe 2 tablespoons of meat, and I just stick the mozzarella cheese right in there and roll it up into a nice ball. I believe I got like 12-ish meatballs out of this, so they make great leftovers too. Now to the bottom of our slow cooker, just add in your favorite marinara sauce, and then I'm just going to place the meatballs right on top of the sauce, and just the rest of the bottle goes right on top of those meatballs. We are going to cover it and cook it on high for about 3 hours or until the meat is completely cooked through. Look at how beautiful these meatballs came out. I topped them with some fresh parsley and some more Parmesan cheese, just served it over some regular old spaghetti, and once you cut into it, it has the cheese right inside. Oh my goodness, this is such a good recipe. I have made this so many times, and every single time I've made it, it's been a hit. Next up, we're going to be making French onion pot roast. This is probably my favorite pot roast I've ever made. This was my first time making it like this, and I think it's a real winner here. So we're going to start with 3 red onions. So we're going to slice them thinly. That's about 2 cups, and then 3 cloves of minced garlic. Now over here, I have a 2-pound chuck roast. Now you want to make sure you season this pretty well with some salt and pepper, because any kind of chuck, you need some good flavor in there, and it doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own, so flavoring it up is always a good idea. Make sure you get that in, and by massaging in the salt and pepper, and then we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of flour and just coat that all over the roast. Now, of course, I need to wash my hands before we move forward. Over to our stove, I am going to heat up about 2 tablespoons of just regular oil. And like I always tell you, my little trick here is making sure your oil is hot enough. Just take the back end of a wooden dowel, and if it bubbles up around it, your oil is ready to go. We're going to sear this about 2 minutes per side. This way it gets a nice crust on it. And here's a little hack that I have always used is you cut a potato in half, and you can use that as something that it can lean on. This way you're not holding it to sear it. And this one I had to use both halves of the potato, but I think I saw this Julia Childs years and years ago when I was very young, and it always stuck with me. So now to a bowl, we are going to mix up 1 cup of beef broth, 3 cloves of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, to 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, and a 1/4 cup of tomato sauce, a tablespoon of rosemary. Give this a really good whisk. Over to our slow cooker, we are going to line the bottom with half of the red onion and then add in your roast. And then we're going to top that with the beef broth. And then we're going to put in the other half of the onions and then the rest of the beef broth mixture. Now this is going to cook on high for 4 hours, or you can cook it on low for 8 hours. Once the time is up, we're going to remove the roast right from the pot. And I love my slow cooker because the pot actually comes out, and you can use your stove. You can just heat this right up over your stove. And I just bring it to a boil over the stove top, and I'm adding in a cornstarch slurry, which is just 1 tablespoon of cornstarch and a tablespoon of water, and giving that a really good stir until it gets nice and thick. And then the roast is super easy to shred. I'm just using 2 forks. It is so fork tender. And then we're just going to add that right back into that delicious sauce. I just served this right over some mashed potatoes. You can serve it over rice. That would be delicious too. Next time I make it, I'll probably throw in some carrots and some celery. But either way, this was so good. It is definitely my new favorite pot roast recipe. Next up, we are making ranch pork chops and potatoes. Talk about an all-in-one meal. So we are just going to cut up our red potatoes. I've got 3 large red potatoes, and I cut them all into small pieces. And then I'm slicing up 1 yellow onion. And now we are going to make our sauce, which is just a 1/2 cup of oil, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and a 1/2 packet of this ranch dressing. You can add more if you wanted, but sometimes the ranch dressing can be a little potent. Now to the bottom of our slow cooker, we are going to add in our potatoes and then our onions. And we're going to actually add in some sliced garlic. This is optional. I just decided to do it at the last minute. And then just mix that all together with your hands. And now just pour in half of that marinade, and then put on 4 thinly sliced bone-in pork chops. You can use whatever kind of pork chops that you have on hand here. This is just what I had, and I feel like the bone-in does give it a little extra flavor. Top that with the rest of the marinade and give everything a good mix and make sure everything is coated. Once everything is nice and coated, I use 2 tablespoons of cubed butter and just place that right on top. Now we are going to cook this on high for 3 hours. As the time is up, I did wind up making a cornstarch slurry, which is just 1 tablespoon of water, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, just to thicken up the sauce a little bit. And I covered this up and I let it simmer for another 30 minutes until everything got nice and thick. and this is what it came out like. I mean, talk about an all-in-one meal. I just served it alongside some steamed broccoli, and it was another really, really delicious meal. Next up, we're going to be making Fritos taco chili. This is another really tasty recipe. So we're starting with one large yellow onion, and I'm just going to dice that up. Over to my pan, I am going to just brown a pound of ground turkey. You can, of course, use ground beef instead if you wanted. I just love the taste of ground turkey in this recipe. Just cook that and drain it. Now we're going to add in our onion and a little salt and pepper and cook that until the onion is nice and translucent. Now we're going to add in 1 packet of taco seasoning. If you happen to have one of the big bottles at home of taco seasoning, it is 2 tablespoons, and then 1/3 a cup of water, and just cook that until it gets nice and thick. Now over to the slow cooker, we are going to put in our meat mixture, and then we're using 1 whole can of rotel, a can of chili beans, a can of black beans, and an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. Give this a really good mix until everything is nice and well combined. And we are just going to cook this on low for 5 hours. Chili is so good, you guys. I topped it with avocado, arugula, some cheese, sour cream, and tomatoes. And now I'm taking these corn chips, aka Fritos, and I'm just breaking them up all over the top. And this is just such an amazing meal, and it's something that can please just even the pickiest eaters. For our final recipe this week, I probably saved the easiest for last. It is brown sugar and garlic chicken. We are using 4 chicken thighs. We're going to put that in the bottom of our slow cooker, and then all we're going to put on it is a little salt and pepper. Make sure you get all the sides nice and salt and peppered. And then we have 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. Once everything is all mixed up and coated, you do not need to add any liquid to this. There is enough liquid that comes out of it. We're going to cook this on high for 4.5 hours. Now, after it's been cooking for 4.5 hours, I like to broil. This is totally optional, but to a lined baking sheet that's sprayed with plenty of nonstick spray, I'm going to put the chicken thighs on, and we're going to top that with a little extra brown sugar. And I used probably about another tablespoon and a half of brown sugar to put on all of these chicken thighs, and we broil that for about 5 minutes until it's nice and crispy on top. Now over to a saucepan, I am going to just put in the rest of the liquid and use a cornstarch slurry to thicken this nice, beautiful sauce up. This sauce is so good. It's nice and sweet. And then I'm also going to strain it. So I'm going to take out all of those big pieces of chicken. Of course, you could still eat that, but I like it being more like a nice smooth gravy like this. Here is our chicken out of the oven, nice and browned top. I love this. Like I said, it's optional to do that, but I feel like it gives it so much extra flavor, and it looks nice too. This is what the dish came out like. I served it with some white rice and some steamed green beans. Another really good meal, a really good slow cooker recipe. All right, friends, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you found some inspiration with these slow cooker dump and go recipes. I know that they were big hits in our family, and I hope they are in yours too. In the meantime, if you did love today's video, I would love to have you, so go ahead and hit that red subscribe button down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.